Welcome to the FRCL Weekly Call. We're a group of distribution leads who get together regularly to discuss works in progress, share ideas, and create opportunities for cross-distro collaboration.
All right. Hey, it is August 12th. Hi, everybody. It is, we are here as RHEL, Fedora, and CentOS leads, or Fedora RHEL CentOS leads? Yeah, Fedora RHEL CentOS leads. And we are here to talk about Tidbits because we don't have a major topic for today. So I just wanted to open it up. I've got a couple things that are on my mind, but I want to just kind of poll the room, see if there's anything that you leads wanted to talk about, share, or inquire about today. Show a hand, any hand. Amy, you're number one.
I'll put something out there because I messaged you, Brendan and Sean, just to put it on people's radar on whether we want to have an in-person FRCL meeting again after Red Hat Summit. And if you are thinking about it and will be at Red Hat Summit, let us know and we can kind of determine whether they're going to have one and coordinate and before people make travel plans.
Okay,
but that's way in the future.
Okay, I just wanted to see, was that like
May
the
2027?
What?
May 2027, or is it not?
Yeah,
May?
I plan well in advance.
Okay.
I think that's far enough in advance we actually could pull something off, Amy. So I'm interested in that. Yeah, I'm definitely interested in that.
I mean, I was real happy with our very impromptu, but a lot of people had already, booked flights home and, we lost some people. So if we have it on our radar well in advance, and once people find out they will be there, we can actually plan and know what we're doing.
Yeah, I'd love to know, and Jason, maybe this is something we can cover in a future week, is what Community Day is going to be next year, if that's going to be a thing or a different thing. Like that would be super, because that's kind of what I'd want to plan it around.
Yeah, I guess we can see how soon we can get that information, But yeah, that's worth talking about.
Okay. Yeah. So Amy, thank you for raising this early. It's definitely too early, but I don't think anyone would be disinterested. And I think as soon as we know what the time frame for Community Day is going to be, or what the nature of it is, we should cover that here, because we should not do this as like opportunistic. Oh yeah, let's, as an afterthought. We should make plans proactively. So I think that's right on.
Community Day will be a little hard because we run events at Community Day. So my thought was Thursday, like we did last time. But yeah.
Yeah,
keep it in mind, folks.
So my thought process here is that like maybe the day before Community Day, like there are days that are good and days that are bad, and the Community Day itself would be bad, but we want to make sure that it's scheduled at a time that is cognizant of all the things people will be going to the event for, so that they make travel plans that include FRCL time.
Okay, just so you know, that would put it on Sunday. We had the board meeting on Sunday last time we were in Boston. Yeah. It worked. We had the building is not manned because it was really convenient having it over at the Red Hat office, but the building is not manned. There's just a security guard downstairs, just so folks know.
Okay. If it's like a John Wick kind of experience, I'm into that. Like if it's like the hotel. Not the other parts. Okay, so Fabio, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to bring something up that this is happening more or less frequently in FESCO, and it's happened again, like last week, and it's kind of annoying to deal with. Usually what happens is that people come to us and say, hey, this package looks very unmaintained. What's happening here is what happened to the maintainer. And then you realize, hey, they used to work at Red Hat and they left, and their email address is now just bouncing, and nobody noticed, and the package was left in unmaintained state. And I was wondering if there would be a way to handle those kind of handoffs better. Like when people inside Red Hat get reassigned to different projects or leave Red Hat, that their Fedora responsibilities don't just get forgotten.
Yeah. Hey, Evan, I don't think we have any sort of organized how to be responsible about Fedora in offboarding, but maybe that's something we could put together.
Yeah, let's talk more about that. That's a good point.
Okay. Yeah. So for everybody's information, there have been a lot of changes inside Red Hat's leadership over the last few months. And so I think what you're, as people are moving around to new opportunities inside the company, they're not like necessarily leaving Red Hat, but some of them are moving from RHEL to Lightwell, for instance. And like there's been enough of that one of the future topics I was thinking we cover would be like a leadership meet and greet. So like a few months ago, Steph Walter, who's often at FRCL calls, used to be my manager, but now Evan is my manager. Hi, Evan. And now Steph is Evan's manager, and Mike is the VP of Lightwell. So there have been a lot of changes internally, and I would think that if we had like a leadership meet and greet, that that idea of, hey, how can we make sure that people moving inside Red Hat doesn't leave a gap outside of Red Hat, much less an unpublicized gap, would be really, really helpful. Like I've been seeing the FESCO tickets myself, going, oh yeah, they went to Lightwell, they're elsewhere, and that's not a great experience to just have people go silent.
I mean, sometimes it's not even that they go silent, it's that they're Red Hat. I guess they leave Red Hat entirely, and then the only way that we find out is like when we try to email them and then like get a bounce message that the address doesn't exist anymore. So if that's what really the main issue is, that we have a policy that you need to have an email address that's reachable, and then they get removed from Red Hat and they're no longer reachable, and we don't know if they don't want to contribute at all anymore, or if they do want to contribute anymore or continue contributing in a non-Red Hat capacity, but we don't know because we don't know how to reach them at all, and maybe they don't know because they're focused on other offboarding processes. So if we could make that a part of both leaving Red Hat and also getting reassigned to a different position, I think is important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Amy, go ahead.
I'm going to ask this question because it does happen. Would you expect a community member to tell you that you are changing jobs? I mean, I know it's a little different because Red Hat does a lot of stuff, but I'm just curious. I mean, a lot of times people say, hey, thank you for your time. I'm moving on to another position, whether it's within Red Hat or another company. And a lot of people do that. They'll send it to a developer list. But is that an expectation you have, that if someone moves on, that no matter where they work, they should send a message to a list?
I would say no. I think the main issue is just that people who work at Red Hat tend to use their Red Hat email in the Fedora account system because it's kind of tied to Red Hat Bugzilla, so then it's easier to have your email in there. It's more of a matter of just, if your email is no longer reachable, either put in a new email or, remove yourself from the packaging group, so we know that you're no longer interested in contributing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense to me too, because some people are involved in Fedora because it helps them do their jobs better, right? And so in that circumstance, it makes sense that maybe the maintainer of a package in Fedora is also the maintainer of a package in RHEL. And if somebody wouldn't do that in Fedora unless they were also doing it for RHEL, then if they're no longer going to do that in RHEL, maybe they're not going to participate in Fedora any longer. That seems normal to me, or at least one of the normal things I would expect for some people. But that's kind of an impedance mismatch with like your somebody who is just participating in Fedora because they choose to, because they want to be part of the community. And for that circumstance, I would expect, at least I would hope for them to say, hey, I know you've all been relying on me for this thing. I will not be doing this thing any longer. Thanks for all the good times. And if there's like a pattern of that not happening with Red Hatters that shift off of, that feels like a problem that we should solve.
Yeah, I think it has happened, just I guess inconsistently.
Yeah.
And I guess also it was actually explicitly part of the FESCO policy at one point that like FESCO was supposed to be notified when someone was being offboarded from Red Hat, and we actually removed that from the policy recently because it just wasn't happening anymore. But if it starts happening again, we can add it back.
I don't know. We have documentation for all managers. We should probably just include something like, hey, if your associate's leaving, please make sure that they clarify their ongoing commitments in the Fedora space. Like, I don't think it's a big lift on our end. It's just not something that's occurred to us because no one suggested it. Thank you for suggesting it, Fabio.
Thank you.
And Maxwell as well. Carl, go ahead.
Sure. So I think where anything on the Red Hat side should focus on is things that are related to doing their job in RHEL. Because there's a whole mix of things, right? Like people may maintain, making up some fake examples. Maybe somebody from the database team, works on like MariaDB in Fedora, but also maintains like a CLI tool and a GNOME extension. Like they don't really need to notify anyone about the latter two, but for the database thing, Red Hat should care that, yes, somebody on the Red Hat database team that cares about the same database in Fedora has a smooth handoff. But it's not for every package they maintain. So there's a lot of nuance to it. I think a lot of Red Hatters maintain a mix of packages, some related to their job and some that aren't. I was also going to point out one other small thing. We have in Fedora, there's the inactive packager policy. So there is a gate that after 12 months of inactivity, they'll get flagged. I'm guessing what Maxwell was bringing this up for is that examples that have happened before that 12-month where it became a problem that the maintainer was unreachable, which is a problem. That does happen from time to time, a non-zero amount.
Yeah, I definitely see a connection between this and ELN, because basically ELN is a continuous snapshot of who we think is going to, or what the next RHEL release needs to contain, or we expect it to contain, and also who we think is going to be managing those packages, like responsible for it, at very least at the team level. So, like, I think we've got all the plumbing to know when there are issues. We're just not taking advantage of it. So there's like a human side to this and an automation side to this, and we could probably do something for both.
I wonder if there's like an automation that somebody that knows email better than me might be able to answer this. Is there a not that invasive way to have, like, say, a monthly check that your fast email is reachable? Because that would help solve this too.
I guess the check would just be to send people an email every month, but people might, and then check if there's a bounce back. But I guess people might find that annoying if we keep emailing them every month.
Yeah, like an actual email. Yeah, I don't know.
Just create a very high value newsletter that we send out.
Yeah, the main thing I was looking for was the bounce thing, but I don't know email well enough to say that yes, that will work with without actually sending an email.
I mean, that's what Mailman does, right? Is your monthly reminders. and we all just delete them because they're obnoxious, but it's not like none of us have gotten them before.
Jeff, go ahead and say it out loud.
Oh yeah, this is just an interesting discussion because I'm sure we're going to have this problem with Microsoft down the road as they get more stuck in. Now that they have Azure is based on Fedora, they're going to have employees eventually who want to maintain things in Fedora because it helps them maintain whatever their derived stuff is. So it would be nice to have a vendor neutral policy here that we can apply to everybody.
Yeah, the thing that I think is personally interesting for me, it's just like a little tweak on this, is that typically when somebody leaves Red Hat, their manager starts getting their email so that we do not have a bounce mail situation. So now I'm wondering, like, did we change that policy? Is there a time limit on it? Like, what's the deal there? Because there's probably a period of time where somebody is getting it, but they're not doing the right things with it. But that's a Red Hat internal thing. That's like, I don't know if we would have the expectation of other downstreams like Microsoft. Pat, go ahead.
I'm wondering if we can use the rawhide branching as kind of our annoying nag email, where we just send people a thing. Hey, your package was branched from rawhide to Fedora 46. No action is required. But if it bounces a whole bunch, that's probably some good signal. And our end package users might be slightly annoyed, but because it's tied to the release process and happens every 6 months, it theoretically feels like a reasonable transparency information-y type email-y thing. Where, yeah, we're nagging you, but we touched your packages, so it feels fair to tell you that we touched your packages.
I'm just wondering if there's something like a fast integration point with that needs to be thought about for vendors who have this kind of relationship, right? Because I don't understand the ins and outs, but I'm imagining there's some way to catch it there where fast can interact with the vendor and because the vendor knows which emails are actually active still, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just separate systems. Like their account system knows whether their email is active, but ours doesn't unless we actually send them an email to see if they are active.
Right.
Okay, so I guess the thing I'd like to see for this is that if there are some solutions that or partial solutions to this problem that can be done entirely in the Fedora space, like Pesco should probably initiate a discussion about it, like, and that may land on FRCL to do. Like, I think Pat's idea of a biennial, and every 6 month message about branching would kind of fit purpose, but that was kind of out of scope for Freckle. On the other hand, should Red Hat be doing something to facilitate good behavior for anybody who is working in Fedora that happens to be a Red Hat employee? Absolutely. So I'll take that one away. So Fabio, Maxwell, do either one of you want to like do a follow-up on your side as well?
Yeah, I mean, if there's consensus to do it, I already use the Fedora mailing infrastructure for something else that I run. I would not mind sending emails out to, I think it's 1,000 packagers, and if any of them bounce, starting the process to remove them, if that's something that people think makes sense. But I think also we should work on the side of making sure when someone leaves a company, whether it's Red Hat or another company, that they change their email and fast or let us know that they're no longer participating.
Yeah, well, I don't know about consensus on the Fedora community side. That feels like your thing more than mine. But if you started an email thread on it on Developist, like that, I think that'd be super. and I can follow up on the other one myself. So it feels like a manager topic. Okay, so Fabio, great topic. What else is on people's minds today? Other than oppressive heat.
I could give an update on how we're doing on the path towards inclusion in primary Koji for RISC V, if anyone is interested.
I get some thumbs. We got some thumbs. Ooh, and eyeballs too.
Okay, I don't see the thumbs actually. Only the meeting organizer sees them.
Really? I did not.
Okay, I don't know that.
No, I see them.
Okay, maybe I'm just so slow. Okay, I'm just slow in spotting the thumbs. I think it's on the little microphone spot, I guess. Okay, yeah. So I work on RISC V, Fedora RISC V effort, along with many other interesting folks from Red Hat and the community. So one of the main goals for RISC V, or rather one of the main steps for RISC V to be included in primary Koji as a primary architecture is for it to be first included in primary build system, right? So that's the first step. So one of the main blockers there is having data center grade hardware, having builds matching closest architecture, say, not at least slower than S390X to start with, build times, and as close as we get to ARX64 and so on. So that's one of the goals as we get access to hardware. So right now we have a healthy mix of, in terms of hardware, we have a good mix of community and Red Hat contributed hardware pool in Fedora's RISC V build system. When I say Fedora's RISC V build system, I'm using it as a shortcut for secondary architecture. So please don't read it as primary. I'm implying that or anything like that. So yeah, as for benchmarks, we've presented the state of RISC V at Flock, but there's that ticket has benchmark details of various critical path packages, comparing with the hardware that we currently have in RISC V build pool, currently what we have in the build pool. So one of the most interesting things is the most recently released hardware that is in the build farm is based on the most recent ISA specification called RVA23, and it's showing incremental improvements. So all those improvements are, thanks, Brandon, are shown there. If sort of Brandon scrolls by, you'll see the comparisons there between, let's say, pause there for a second. And so as a glibc, it's comparing across K3 is the most recent hardware that is currently viable, that is based on the latest ISA specification, and how that compares with the previous two versions of hardware in the Fedora build system, Fedora RISC V build system. So if you scroll down a bit more, you'll see numbers for kernel, how it's like it's a noticeable improvement. You see like almost 3x, 2.7, and QEMU is almost like 5x or 6x. If you scroll down, you will see these benchmarks, these classic Fedora builds. There's nothing much done. For kernel, a small intervention needed to be done, but that's representative enough. So QEMU is quite, because QEMU is used heavily in OpenQA and elsewhere. So that was interesting. So overall, we see these kind of incremental but noticeable improvements. And as for future, the main thing for primary build system inclusion is data center grade hardware, right? The hardware that should be rackable in Fedora's infrastructure. So for that, we learn one of the primary American vendors, Sci5, they're coming up with rackable hardware that should show up anytime between now and 2027, Q1. So about 5 to 6 months. So I'll keep you posted as we learn more, and I will start another benchmark thread comparing the current top of the line hardware and that one, and see where we are, and then we can have a community discussion. So yeah, I'll stop my monologue there, but that's that's the rough update, and the path to primary architecture is also being tracked in this ticket. Sorry, primary build system. For which, here it is, just a second. There we go. That's the main. So yeah, if you have questions, comments, Rotten Tomatoes, anything, just shoot here or join us on RISC V Matrix channel. Maxwell?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to say this is really cool. Thank you for working on it. And also, do you also have benchmarks like comparing those different RISC V builders that you were showing to primary architectures in Fedora? Because I guess for me, my main thing would be making sure that the RISC V builders aren't significantly slower than the other architectures in Koji, because then that slows everything else down, as I'm sure you already know.
Excellent question. Yeah, that's what you're saying. There is benchmarks in isolation comparing across RISC V hardware doesn't give us enough zoomed out picture. We want to see how they're comparing with current primary architectures. Yes, we have some numbers. So if you see the flock update where I gave in the slide 19 slash, there we see, for example, kernel. I will read the numbers. So on ARM, these are numbers from Koji. So it's 1 hour. Kernel takes about. So the K3 takes about, K3 on RISC V takes about 3 hour 24. So that's still 2.6x, 2.7x slower, but we're getting there. But more comprehensive numbers in terms of critical path packages, comparing primary arch and RISC V. We haven't assembled a page. That's mostly about data gathering and making it nicely visualizable there. So thanks, Brandon. If you go one step further there, next slide with sort of zoomed out version. This one is showing as you see there, that blue line shows only ARM because I didn't want to jam the slide with too much text. That's the P550 and K3 are RISC V machines. I wanted to include the current workhorse, meaning P550 was rather not current, the workhorse until recently in the RISC V build system, and K3 is the current workhorse because it's faster. How that compares. So those are the three versions. You have GCC, glibc, and kernel. Those are the things that had time to do comparison for across ours. But well, I have this very much on my mind to give a zoomed out view so that package maintainers and others will have a more comprehensive view on what the state of affairs is. And I also have another to-do item we're tracking to include some of these machines accessible for package maintainers to debug problems. We need to make them available, at least a couple of machines, so people can SSH. There is a page on Fedora Wiki that outlines the procedure. So I'm working with the Fedora infrastructure and the right folks who manage the hardware budget to account for this. And we're tracking that in a ticket. I'll link that. Thanks, Brandon, for the slides.
Yeah. Go ahead, Yakov.
Yeah.
So back in the old days, we used to have this thing called Koji Shadow, where it used to take over the automation of keeping up with alternative or newer alternative architectures, with keeping them up with rawhide or with even with branches. Now that code I think is very old and probably Python 2 and who knows what else. But is there? I know you've been working it by hand pretty much manually until now, but is there any attempt to get this automated so that you're actually keeping up with, well, more speed, not speed, but you're having the automation take care of most of the builds so that you're not having to do everything yourselves and you're having a better chance of staying more or less up to date, speed comparisons aside?
Yeah, that's a good question. We did discuss the Koji Shadow a couple of times. And right now there is an automation. So David Abdurrahman, I think I should invite him for the next FRCL call because he is doing a lot of work. He actually never sleeps. I think he's an alien. So is excellent. He's doing a lot of this work in terms of build automation. So there is already a lot of build automation in place, but we don't yet have a Koji shadow. We did discuss it a few times, but given the very limited amount of engineering resources, it's you have to be thoughtful about it in terms of investing the time to write one. I know there is as you pointed to, I was looking at prior art during ARM time. There was a Koji shadow server. I also talked to Dennis Gilmore, who was involved in that in the past. But at this moment, we don't yet have a Koji shadow per se. But with the current automation, we're more or less able to keep it. For example, for Fedora 45, the rebuild is almost closing in. 85% of the packages are done. Thanks to the many builders we added recently, community and Red Hatters, so sort of parallelizing. But we don't yet have a Koji shadow. It's a bit of an open question on how much more we can do there. We'll discuss more on. Why don't you join the RISC V metrics channel if you have time? So I think having it captured on text chat can be interesting there with David to see what else he's thinking, because I really want his take here as well. Brendan?
Yeah.
I don't know if that, sorry, before we go, Echo, I don't know if that sort of semi-answers your question.
Well, ultimately,
ultimately
my interest is ELN, but for ELN we need rawhide.
Yeah.
And we have automation for ELN, but you don't have rawhide, then it's kind of hard. So if you had rawhide more or less there, then I'd love to see what we can do about ELN for RISC V. But that's my main goal. But we should probably talk about this on another forum.
Yeah, we should. We should flesh this out a bit more. I think we can have a broader call with relevant folks and then summarize it back to the community. But yeah, we did discuss about ELN. I think you might have talked to Andrea Bolognani, perhaps also active member in the Fedora RISC V community on this. So we'll have a more fleshed out discussion. Brandon?
Yeah, at the risk of descending into an engineering conversation, I definitely want to echo the Yakov. It would be awesome if you joined the RISC V team to talk about your ELN experience, because I'm pretty sure you guys aren't using Koji Shadow. And anyone who has run Koji Shadow, their advice is always, please don't use Koji Shadow because I like you, and it will cause you harm. It's tough to run. So like if ELN's approach could be used instead, that would be really interesting, I think. So like, I don't want to descend into it here, but I think it'd be worth talking about. I was curious though, since we do have CentOS here as well, like Kashyap, do you have anything to share on the CentOS side for RISC V?
Yes, well, not in a full sense. And Andrea is following more closely that one, so maybe I should invite them myself. But on as a summary, we are working on we. When I say we, it's Fabian Araton and Andrea and Troy Dawson. I don't know if he's on the call. Doing a lot of work in getting CentOS stream in a place to. The first step is to have an image. OS image ready that can run on CBS builders, the CentOS build system. So that's the work that is being right now. The most active work is there to get an image ready so that the CBS Koji servers can run this image on top of which stream can be built. But I will pull up more notes from what I have a chat with Andrea the other day and can summarize. Oh, but Troy is on the call. Troy, go for it.
Yeah, you are correct. At this point, we are in the image building phase. The slowdown is basically me. Fabian's got things in position. I ran out of time, and I expect this. This week's already halfway over. Within the next week and a half, to have images building and testing. Once they're built, we got to make sure they actually do what we want them to do.
Yeah.
We do have one of the CentOS stream kernels with the P550 patches. So we're going to be building 2 images, one for QEMU and the other one for P550s. At the moment, that's the only
Excellent.
hardware we have to test on. So,
Yeah. I have one quick. I want to trace back to what Yaku asked on Koji Shadow. As you asked it, you primed my memory. I remember actually a chat with David on the Matrix. He did try standing up a Koji Shadow server based on the older scripts that are already in Fedora's Pagure or right now Forge, and he was having a lot of trouble already with that. And I think he gave up halfway through. And right now we're not that bad in terms of with the limited amount of people working on it versus what's being produced. So, but this is still an open question. We'll flesh out. I was actually wondering about it, about the trade-offs involved, and whether we're overestimating or underestimating the effort and so on. I want to continue that chat. Max has a question. Does RISC V currently run Fedora OpenQA tests? No, it does not. Right now, all it does is boot test essential, just bring up of the headless servers. And there's some graphic stuff, but all I've touched so far have been headless servers. So if you click on the primary path to primary ticket, which I also kind of copy pasted here, slightly better URL, there we did consider OpenQA, but that is a nice to have before all the other important steps come in place. So I think point 5 is the OpenQA. I made it a non-blocking item, but actually that's the first ticket I filed 9 months ago. So it shows that it's on my mind at the bottom of that link. Thank you, Brandon. If you scroll back down, so we need to explore what needs to be done there. I had a bit of a chat on that ticket with Adam, and there are ways to automate it, but we haven't come that far yet. But right now we're trying to be as how do I put it? Not too far behind rebuild with the primary architecture. So that's one of the main goals, with very few people working on this, to try to be efficient and effective with the limited time we have. But this is very much on our mind. Thank you, Brennan.
I'm just excited to see
that's
our
it.
V3 hardware.
Yeah. More coming soon. It's supposed to be the Sci5 data center grade hardware. It's a rackable 19-inch unit, so we're very much looking forward to it. We'll keep you posted as we learn more, and we'll start a separate benchmark thread. And Yaku, I'll follow up with you. I know we actually had a brief chat in the past to follow up on this, but we lost thread, and I know that you picked up the thread with others, like Andrea is working with you. I know a little bit, so we'll have a more fleshed out chat on Koji Shadow. That's it for me. Over to you, Brandon.
Thanks for the RISC V update. Maxwell, go.
Yes, thank you. This whole thing reminded me of the S390X builder issue. Have we gotten anywhere on that?
Let's see, Evan, are you still here? I'm just kidding. Yes.
No, I am.
Do you want to take this, or should I?
We do not have an update yet. There are a lot of conversations happening in the background. S390 is very expensive and very difficult to support. Like, we're talking like $1 million+ per year to get a support contract for our mainframe. So a lot of talk, but actually we're getting closer to an agreement with IBM. So I wish I had a better update, but know that we are trying to figure that out.
Yeah, it's the number one thing on my list. Number 2 is RISC V hardware, and I don't have a number 3. Pat, go ahead.
So I'm not saying it's a good solution, but I do have a Koji builder that is currently running the QEMU static translation for x86-64 to S390X. if there just isn't a hardware path forward, I don't see how RHEL can maintain its foothold. But sometimes you need another builder for 3 days. The performance is like 20% of what I get on an actual S390. So I would only do it if you're genuinely desperate. But it's better than nothing.
I know every time we've talked about this in the past, there have been concerns about that's like cross-compiling. It's really not. But I think I would want to follow what FESCO's guidance would be. Yeah, Neil, go ahead.
I mean, at this point, if we don't see a resolution for this in favor of improving capacity and performance and reliability, it is quite likely FESCO is going to ask for the total discontinuance of S390X and Fedora. So just to put a very strongly worded pin to this in a Fedora context, among FESCO members, we've all kind of talked about this, and if Red Hat and IBM can't come to an arrangement by the end of the year, there will be a proposal to drop S390X across the board. It just will not be supported across anything, Fedora, Apple, or whatever. It will just be dropped because this is ridiculous. And most of us are out of patience. So take that for what you will.
Yeah, I don't like ultimatums, but I was honestly about to say the same thing before Neil did. I mean, if it's not working and we can't get it, then it's not working and we can't get it, and it's causing problems for us. And most Fedora, I mean, the main reason we have it in the first place is because ELN wants it, and then RHEL wants it.
I totally get that frustration, and I totally see that perspective. So I have communicated that in lots of our conversations, but let's continue to discuss that as we get closer to the end of the year. Hopefully we won't go that long.
Yeah, I think it would be accurate to say that we are actively working on this one, but boy, is it slow.
For what it's worth, I will also communicate this same ultimatum to my contacts at IBM who work on the S390X division. So it is not just going to your side that I'm going to squeeze. Pretty much everyone else will be squeezed too.
Right. Appreciate the heads up. Okay, for not having an agenda, we had a lot to talk about today. Does anybody have like a last minute thing, an announcement, something you wanted to share, celebration? Yakov, go ahead.
Well, since Fedora 45 branched this week, that means we are on a 6-month countdown to Fedora 46 branching, and which is also RHEL 11 branching. So we are now very much on the clock. It's going to be a bit of a crazy second half of the year as everyone's trying to get their things in, but yep, it's coming.
And that's also why I put the ultimatum for by the end of this year, for exactly this reason.
Hey, Justin, you want to say that one out loud?
Yeah, literally while we were in this meeting, I just noticed I got an email from the Southern California Linux Expo or Scale. This is an event where we've done a lot. We typically do a big Fedora presence there. Like this year, we had a Fedora Hatch event, which was a first, kind of like a mini regional flock, you could say. I have a hypothesis that depending on where flock will end up going next year, maybe we want to lean into doing more, a bigger thing at Scale next year, question mark. But yeah, if you're thinking about going, I just noticed that they announced their dates and it's later this year. They're not doing it in March. They're doing it the first few days in April, and the CFP is open from now until November 1st. So something to think about if you are in the US or on North America and want to hang out with some cool Fedora people. We typically do have a bigger than normal presence there compared to other events in the US. That's it. Over.
All right. Thanks, Justin. Amy, and then we're out.
Going back to that Hatch, we've already told them we're interested in coming back, so we will have a space, whether it's a half day or we want to move to a full day. That's still to be decided, but we have told them we want to be back.
Yeah, and I'll say I'm hoping we can do a little bit more contributor angle. Like this year it was awesome, but was very user focused. I think it'd be cool if we could make it a little bit more contributor focused. If that's something that's interesting to you, come say hi in the Fedora Ambassadors Matrix room, and we can see if we can get you involved and help out as those plans start to come together.
Nice. All right. Well, thanks everybody for the conversation today. I think next week we're going to do CRA part 2. We'll see. I'm going to talk to the leads when they're back from PTO next week. So until then, we'll see you online. Thanks all. Bye.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks,
See you,
everyone.
folks.